Hey fellow foodies, it's Faye from faysfood.com, and today I'm bringing you a wonderful recipe for brioche cinnamon sugar donuts. So I'm going to start by sifting the pastry flour into the bowl of the stand mixer. I understand if you can't get pastry flour, but it is ideal for a pastry. Realize if you use all-purpose that the texture will be different. Just keep that in mind. Now I'm going to go ahead and pour in the yeast. It's just the instant dry active yeast. And I'm going to mix this for about 10 seconds. I also really recommend you using a digital scale for this recipe. Just a lot easier and a lot more accurate. So I'm going to go ahead and pour in the sugar at this point. It's just regular granulated sugar. Now I can add in the eggs. Remember, all the ingredients will be at room temperature except for the milk, which will be warm, about 75 degrees. So now add in the salt, the nutmeg, and the cinnamon. And now we can add our warm whole milk. And that's most of our ingredients right there. We can go ahead and put this on the stand mixer and mix it on low speed. You just want to mix it for about 5 minutes. Now the flour tends to stick to the sides of the bowl, so yeah, just go around the bowl with the rubber spatula a couple times through the process. And really, you just want to mix this on low for about 5 minutes. Now we can go ahead and add in the butter a piece at a time. This is a key element of brioche dough, is the butter. So it's time to add that. Again, we're mixing it on low speed while we add in the butter. The butter is unsalted and it is at room temperature as well. Alright, so you just want to mix that for about 5 minutes after the butter is added. And then you just dump the dough out onto a lightly floured surface. As you can see, I did not do. It will stick. It also stick to the plastic. So don't use plastic and don't use a unfloured surface. I was just demonstrating what not to do, of course. Once you dump the dough onto a lightly floured surface, you can go ahead and fold the right and the left to the middle, like you're folding a letter horizontally. And then you pat it again into a rectangle and you do it vertically. So you fold the top and the bottom to the middle. Once you do that, you can go ahead and place it into a bowl and just cover it with plastic wrap and let it sit at room temperature for about an hour. Right, so after an hour, we can go ahead and dump it out onto our lightly floured surface and begin patting it into a rectangle again. And again, we are going to fold right and left and top and bottom. The reason why we're doing this is similar to croissants. We want to really build those layers into the dough. Okay, and after we do this process, we can go ahead and place it back into our bowl that is lightly greased, cover it, and then we're going to place it in the fridge overnight. Key here is you don't want to overwork the dough. Okay, so overnight that will chill. Next day we can go ahead and combine our cinnamon and sugar into a shallow dish. We have our dough that has doubled in size in the fridge. And then we can go ahead and dump it onto their lightly floured surface again. And we are ready to roll these bad boys out and cut them out. So begin working it with your hands. And then I lightly flour the top and then roll it out into a rectangle. You want it about a 1/2 inch thick. I think no more, no less in terms of thickness. Alright, so I'm going to use a lightly floured, I think it's about a 3-inch cutter. And you can go ahead and use a pastry tube as well, the end of a pastry tube that is lightly floured for the middle portion. Okay, and that will bring our donut holes right there. So now we have the donut and the donut holes. Okay, so you just continue to cut out the shapes. And you should also have had a prepared baking sheet that is lined with parchment, greased, and lightly floured. So that's to my side actually. I'm gonna use this to move them. It's just like a mini drywall scraper. I don't know why we have this, but I find this very useful with baking and pastries. So I always find myself going back to this tool. So I just use it to move the donuts to the sheet, so this way it won't deflate if I try to move them with my hands. Okay, so we have them on the prepared baking sheet. We're going to place this baking sheet into the oven. The oven's going to be turned off. We just want it to proof for about an hour, hour and a half. And you can see that I'm going to actually prepare my oil at this moment. I have a skewer. You can use chopsticks, but yeah, I find these two things are the best things to flip the donuts in the oil. So you can see the bubbles are there. The oil is ready. It's at 375 Fahrenheit. It's ready to go. They're ready to be fried. So I'm just using that mini spatula thing to move it, each donut into the oil. And I'm using a very small pan, which is why I'm doing it one at a time. You can use a big Dutch oven and fry a few at a time. It's up to you. So I would say about 45 seconds each side for the first time, and then about a minute, minute and a half on each side after that. Really, you want to try to test with the first donut. It's like the first pancake is always the worst one. Your first donut is always your test donut. Right, so right out of the oil, I actually move it to a paper towel lined baking sheet, and then immediately I just let it drain for a few seconds, and then I move it to the cinnamon sugar mixture to toss it in there. So as with all donuts, these are best enjoyed piping hot, fresh out of the fryer. Of course, be careful. Small disclaimer. And these aren't typical donuts. These are brioche donuts, so they are a tad bit denser, but the texture is still wonderful as they're crisp on the outside. On the inside, they're nice and fluffy. Very, very good donut. For the full recipe, go to facefood.com, give this a try. Like this video, comment below, and subscribe to this channel for more great videos on the way. Until next time, guys, you have a wonderful day.
You know I ain't tryna say no dreams. I'm just trying to make this money. I ain't trying to share with the team. Girl, I ain't trying to take nothing from you.